special guest. I'm not sure he has yet to confirm, but he may show up a little bit later. And John, Brenda, and Kathy are going to be talking about the Zoom calls and the modules that they've created to teach everybody here on the wonderful landmass known as Canada how we seat a de jure government. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to John right now and Catherine to give you a little bit of an intro into what they're doing.
Thank you, Doug. Hello, Catherine.
Good evening, folks. How is everybody?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Excited to be here again. Excited to tell the people what we've been working so hard at, which consists of our 8 modules that anyone can understand. Whole bunch of information to teach people from the bottom to the top what's happened through history, what a constitution is, what's the architecture in a constitution, what are delegates, how do we choose delegates, types of government, types of law. So many topics just to cover, and so we've created these 8 modules that'll be done in different sections, of course. We'll be doing Zoom calls and kind of describe and talk about what we've created with these cover pages that are nice, easy on the eyes, and we'll be able to get in depth with the conversation and have a Q&A period at the end. And then for those who wish to dig in deeper, well, here's where the written modules come in. Because what we've done is composed actual literature from the acts throughout history, all of the evidence, right, that supports our position on what we can do and how we can move forward. And we want to do it on a level playing field, per se. That is to say, not to confuse people with legalese and big words. And I mean, yeah, there are some smart people out there, but for the average Joe, we need to describe it in ways that the average person is going to comprehend and understand the information that we're providing to them, right? Because it's hard to learn if you don't know what you're learning. So we spent quite a few hours on these, and we released them last week. There are 8 modules, 1 to 8. We've done a Zoom call only for number 1 so far. I know Brenda has another Zoom call scheduled for hers as well, for module 1, that I have to talk to her to get the date and stuff again. But I know it's coming up pretty soon. And
actually, John, it's going to be this Monday, the 11th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
what time and how do people get a hold of her to book for that?
I'm hoping she'll come on and tell everybody. If I know she's a little busy right now, and she's scheduled to be here with us this evening, and I've sent her the link, so I'm hoping she'll come on and she'll inform the listening public how to do that herself. How's that?
That's perfect, Doug.
By the way, Catherine, I'd like you to speak a little bit to the people here tonight about what you've been doing in the last couple of days. By the way, did those ships that I sent you, did that help, or was that too much information?
Well, the pictures were fine. I opened up the PDFs and I'm like, there better be a picture in here, Doug. It was 2 complete PDFs full of just reading, and I was like, oh, like I don't have time for this. But muchly appreciated. It's on my to-do list. Yeah, well, I've been doing some deep digging, deep hole digging on a project that I'm working on, hopefully going to be released pretty soon. It's rather in depth and can be overwhelming, and I want it to come out just right so that it's is just, it's all out there, all the information. And it's a special project on specifically Russell Rogers Smith, and who he was and what he did and where he went and the people he met and the things he was involved in and his ties and just everything that encompasses this entire, I guess I could call him an enigma, because he was really quite an amazing character when you start, doing some deep research and finding information on him, which for the first, I think, 3 days of my research encompassed a 170-person historical family tree with over 500 source documents and another 1,100 to go. So yeah, it's been interesting and fun. And by the time I'm done, I think I'll probably be like the #1 person who knows the most about this man when I'm done. But it should be really interesting.
I'm interested to see your creation. We're diligently working every day, people, at trying to move the Mythos Canada information forward and educating people. A few rallies happening in Edmonton this weekend. Tomorrow is the COVID-19 protests at the legislature building. And Sunday is going to be the Liberal gun ban protest, which, from what I hear, there's some 3,000 people attending. It's going to be quite interesting, actually historical. Every day we live now, we're being stripped of more freedoms, and every day is becoming more historical than the previous. And Alberta Health Services and the RCMP have threatened to fine everyone $1,000 for being at the legislature on Sunday for this gun protest. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I mean, of course, nobody's going to pay the fines. Who can pay them? I mean, everyone's getting $2,000 a month. Who can afford that? We can barely afford to survive. Something needs to happen here, and real soon. And that's the importance of where we're at, actually. People, I'm still not seeing significant numbers wake up. We still have about 80% that are still asleep out there drinking the Kool-Aid and refuse to believe that this is our reality. Food shortages are happening. No one's working. I mean, how much more evidence do people need? And I realize that I'm preaching to the choir here, because we get a lot of return people coming back to view us again, right? But every time we do these shows, we get new people. Whether it's 1, whether it's 20, it's irrelevant how many come, as long as we get more people waking up every day by every show, right? So we've got to reach critical mass, and we've got to unite, and we've got to make this happen. And that's why we merged away from each country, Alberta, Saskatchewan, etc., doing their own Constitutional Convention Committee meetings, and now grouping it all into one. Whereas we can have people from all over the country now, by using the internet, right, with these Zoom calls, to join us and learn about this stuff. And with the Zoom calls, there's also the Q&A at the end of it for people that are going to have questions. Like, I know when I first started getting into this, I had all kinds of questions because I didn't understand a lot, right? But I didn't have a version presented to me that we've created either. So we're hoping that it's going to be more simplistic for a lot of people, and those people can start telling people, and those people can start telling people. We're always looking for more teachers for this information too, right? We need the numbers to grow. And yes, having rallies and stuff is great, but at the end of the day, we need numbers across the landmass known as Canada.
So, John, now that Brenda's here, we might be able to answer that question that we didn't have the answer for.
Yes.
Brenda, why don't you turn your microphone on and tell everybody when your Zoom call is? Because John and I couldn't answer it. I knew it was on Monday. I just didn't know what time.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's Monday, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. And to get in touch with or to get a Zoom link, please email me zoombrenda20@yahoo.com. Again, that's zoombrenda20@yahoo.com, and that's Monday nights. And all Module 1 meetings will be held Monday nights at 7 o'clock. The people that are ready to move on to Module 2, I will schedule a new Zoom meeting and day and time. But we will discuss that in Monday's Zoom meeting to see what day and time works best for the majority there. And then I'll go ahead and schedule that. And we'll resume with Mondays at 7 o'clock for Module 1 meetings. If that answers your question.
It does. Now, are you going to record your meeting, Brenda?
I am going to record the first one, yes. And if I don't like it, I'm going to ditch that recording and record the second one.
Okay.
Or I will take bits and pieces of the good questions that are asked. And actually, I think Duke said he'd help me out in that he would go through them and pick out the good questions that are really relevant and put those together in sort of like a montage.
Yeah, the first one we did with Mod 1, I actually recorded it and uploaded it to my YouTube channel.
Uh-huh.
Probably a good idea to do that with 2, 3, 4, and so on.
Well, I was planning on doing that. It's just that what I'm trying to do is have it so that Mod 1 meetings will run for about 4 to 6 weeks, right? That'll be Monday nights at 7 o'clock. That's a given for all Mod 1s. Then when we schedule Mod 2, it could probably be a Wednesday or Thursday at 7 o'clock. And that'll be all the Mod 2s at that time, right? And that'll run for 6 or 7 weeks. When they're ready for Mod 3, then we'll schedule a different time and a different day for Mod 3 and just keep those, each one of those times for the different modules. It may end up that we end up doing modules 3, 4, and 5 all together in one setting. It's just going to depend on how many questions are asked, right?
I'd like to say number 1's the most important to everyone, to learn the history and the information, but once you look at the package we've created, every module has its own level of importance, and they're all up there, right? They're very important facts in every one of these modules that we've dug far and wide across the land.
Well, what we have for the modules is they expand in themselves as people bring in their own experience, and you get people that have a bigger experience and some that have a smaller experience. And once you've got the collective thought of all the people in the room, it expands everybody's level of comprehension. And so that's a really beautiful thing about this. I've got actually in Mod 1, I've got a couple of professional people coming in that have messaged me. And so their comprehension level of the next few modules is going to also expand our minds as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to this series. I really am.
I must say that, ladies and gentlemen, these people have worked enormously on this. I was side by side with them. They were sharing the information over to me on a daily basis, just for me to read through. It's amazing. You show up. If you can't learn from these people, there's no hope for you. I'm sorry to say that. Just go ahead and walk up to a person who has corona, whatever it is, or COVID-19, give them a big wet kiss, and then hope for the best. I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to Zoom call on Monday as well. I will be there. I will have a presence with Brenda. She's graciously invited me to at least sit in the background and watch. And we'll see. I think how many? What's your numbers for this call now? You're over 30, aren't you?
Right now, I'm at 32.
Okay, I knew you were over 30. That's a great number to have. What we don't want to see on these calls is like 200 people. That's just way too many people to come in.
I don't have that room in. I don't have that much room, many sitting capacity in the room either.
Well, and you want to really keep it down to around 40 people at this time, and this way, you're not going to be talking to too big of a crowd.
Well, here's the problem with the Zoom is trying to be the host, also moderating the crowd. So I've had to learn how to do screen sharing. I've had to learn how to bring in my PowerPoint presentation. I've had to learn how to do so much. And then if I have to control and bring in each speaker as they come in, actually, I think I'd be happy if there was only 30 people there. Just because I've got the answer, or I've got sent out 30 invites or 32 invites. These are people that have contacted me. That doesn't mean that that's how many are going to actually show up. You never know. The day of the meeting, who knows?
Well, you'll take all takers. Anybody who wants to join is more than welcome to join. The first one out of the gate, there's going to be another one the following Monday. Haven't you scheduled this now as a regular Zoom call for you on Mondays at 7?
Mondays at 7, and I will be doing Mod 1 every Monday at 7. I'll look at a different day for Mod 2. And then if somebody else would prefer to host the Mod 3, or we can take turns doing the mods. I can make anybody the host of a meeting. So just because I've got it scheduled doesn't mean that I can't have John host it, or I can't have Catherine host it.
Cool. Well, there you go. The doors are open. That's wonderful. Oh my God. So what, at the end of all of these mods, what will they have learned?
Oh,
I know.
wow.
By the way, I know the answer to that question. John, Catherine, or Brenda, you guys go ahead. You created this because you guys know the answer to that question, and you go ahead and tell them what will they have learned?
We'll have learned what goes into a constitution, what the constitution or the convention process is, how to choose your delegates, and you'll know the history, the where, the why, and the end result is let's get a de jure government soon.
So in a nutshell, and may I paraphrase for John and Catherine as well? In a nutshell, they're going to learn not only the process of going through the Constitutional Convention and electing the delegate, but they're also going to learn to be the delegates that will be elected to create this Constitution. And at the end of it all, they'll know how to seat a de jure government lawfully with law of the land. And that's at the end of these 8 modules. That's what they're going to walk away with. that knowledge. And that's amazing. I think I can't say enough for these three people. It's amazing how they work together to create these modules, to make it palatable. I'm talking easy to learn, not with Doug's big words and blah, 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 blah. I don't understand. They've actually made it simple for everybody to learn. Right, Rudy? I mean, Rudy's going to join us. And I know that Duke wants to sit in on a few of these modules, and it's just gonna take off. I feel it will take off. Ladies and gentlemen, come in now. Get in while you still can.
And let's not forget, everyone watching, new viewers and old, that we do not have a constitution. A constitution is a document that creates the government. So if we don't have a constitution, how do we have a government? We get to choose how we want to be governed, what type of government we would like to see. We get to select the clauses that go into the Constitution. They don't write them for us. And it's not just us we need to think about, it's our kids. I have an 8-year-old son, and this is why I am fighting so hard. And this is why I am on the front lines, because right now, he doesn't have a future. And neither do your kids, or your grandkids, or your neighbors' kids. Notice they all getting picked on a lot lately? They seem to be wanting to wipe them out. We need to do something about that. They've served their time. They deserve the best care possible. Same with our vets. There's so many issues, and we could go on literally for days with problems that we're facing today that you won't hear any politician speak about. Why? Because he's got 7 digits in his bank account. What does he have to worry about?
I just want to answer Facebook user's question to clarify the time. No, actually, you've got it the other way around. It's 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. That would make it 3 hours later instead of earlier, right, Doug?
2.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Doug.
Doug, unmute.
I just said that into a mute microphone.
Yeah,
It's-
you did.
It's 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Saskatchewan time and Alberta time. And by the way, these calls are open to everybody from Newfoundland all the way over to Vancouver Island and Comox out in British Columbia. So anybody can join. It doesn't matter where you are on the landmass, commonly known as Canada. Come to us from Tuktoyaktuk up in the
I've
Northwest
got
Territory.
somebody, hopefully, they said they're coming from Halifax. So that's
Wonderful.
I think that's our first Nova Scotia person. So this
I-
is good.
I know I sent you from somebody from New Brunswick that wanted
Cool.
to join your call as well. So.
Perfect. Perfect. We want this to be Canada-wide. We really do.
And we need to get more people in the Atlantic provinces organized into this. The Western provinces, they've already, we've done a very good job. There's a lot of people who are already up and running in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, in British Columbia. Now in Ontario, it's starting to take off, especially with Duke Willis and Alex and so forth out here. Have been doing a wonderful job in that, and I'm hoping to see more people. And I know that Alex and his team is coming to your calls as well this Monday, and so it should be very good as we move forward into the summer. People, you're locked in your house. Well, you're locked in your house if you want to be locked in your house, but you're not working. So doesn't cost you anything to join these calls. It's free. The information that you're getting.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think at some point people have to really be honest with themselves. And yes, I know, we've never seen anything, like this lockdown that we're going through. But because we haven't seen it doesn't make it normal, and it doesn't make it right. And you have to look at what's really the bigger picture is, and all the little things that just don't seem to sit well. And you've got to ask yourself, is this the kind of normal I want to live with forever? Because if we don't do something as a unit of people to change this, then it's never going to change. By us being silent, we are giving them permission to continue to rain down this abuse on our rights. And if you think they're ever going to give them back, you are sadly mistaken. If you think, oh, I'll wait another week and it's all going to get better, then, you know, you need to take a deep, deep look at where you place your trust, because there is, you know, there are things going on that are going to take us down a path that at one point there may be no return. And if you don't do something now, if you don't get involved, whether you believe this or not, come in and at least look at the information. I mean, we're using all of their documents against them to prove that they have been doing this for a very long time and that they are unlawful. And all we need to do is stand up and take control back. And if you're afraid to do that, then you're just not Canadian, shall we say. You know, because, you know, that's the foundation of who we are. I mean, we are a resilient people, and now is the time we need to show that resilience and that unity.
Well, and one of the big questions people come to me all the time, and I imagine they come to you too, and they keep saying, "Oh, Doug, but we are running out of time." And I keep telling them that we are not running out of time. It's them that is running out of time. And I was funny. I was going through some stuff on a hard drive today, and I came across an article from 2009 by a writer that I have the highest respect for. His name is Jim Willey. And he made a prediction back in 2009 saying that the US dollar would be a global reserve currency in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, his prediction was out of whack, but the whole reasoning behind what he was talking about is going on right now today, as to why he said this is why it's not going to last 2 or 3 years. The problem was he was only 11 years short. It actually is happening today. And this article I read, I was just absolutely flabbergasted, because what we are seeing going on in the financial markets and what's happening with how this COVID-19 is locking people out of the day-to-day existence, literally, by closing us out of our work, by closing businesses, et cetera, et cetera. This is what Jim was saying back in 2009, that over the next 3 years, all small businesses will be wiped out. All of the people, the unemployment rate is going to hit 30, 40, 50%. And we're now seeing that happening with this COVID-19. And what's going on behind the scenes in the financial world, he thought it would be the financial world and the exposure of the banksters that was going to do this to us. No, the banksters create this common cold pandemic. Oh no, you're going to die of the common cold. Go lock yourself in your house. And while they finish their job of rape and pillage, now is a unique opportunity for us, because they're not going to win. That's the problem. The problem they have is, well, I've been saying this for quite some time, 2.8 quadrillion. Well, what is 2.8 quadrillion? That's the derivatives that they built. It's the mountain of derivatives that are on fire right now that are wiping them out. When they're wiped out, that's all well and good. It doesn't matter. We have the solution to the chaos that will ensue. We will be the beacon of light and hope for all of the people across Canada. And that's my 10 cents worth.
It's interesting that we've reached a point now where we're calling people on their BS and telling them it is so vital now that people wake up to this information. Or, like you said, Doug, go find someone with COVID and French.
On mute, please.
Because If we don't do something fast, things are going to deteriorate even worse. A fella mentioned in the chat there, the second wave is coming. And yes, you're absolutely right. The second wave is coming. There are things at play right now that the majority of people don't know about. We are privy to this information because we're doing this stuff day in, day out. Catherine, for example, was up till 3 a.m. last night working on stuff. I have been working diligently on stuff. I mean, everybody's doing their part. Doug's hard at it. Everybody's doing their part. So we may or may not be seen at these rallies, but understand that we are the people that are driving this forward because none of you have stepped forward to help us do this on the screen. So it's imperative that we still have our freedom and we are able to do the research and produce this information for you guys to educate you, right? It's crucial. And like I was saying, it's sad that we're at a point where we've got to tell people that we're going to wash our hands of you if you don't choose to learn. Everyone has the ability to. It's a matter of choice.
Well, and you're absolutely correct, John. You can't lead a horse to water and force them to drink it. We can't force you to learn this information. But those that want to learn, boy, oh boy, do we roll out the red carpet for you. We've got that. I'm not kidding when I say this. John, Brenda, and Catherine worked 5 weeks, 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day putting this together. So we could get this done whilst we're still in lockdown, so that these modules can be taught through the Zoom calls. And for all of you who want to learn, this is a great opportunity.
And let's not forget our forefathers that died for your freedoms that you've been enjoying for the last three decades or so. These men went to war fighting, well, false causes, really, because the government put them up to it. So they went thinking that, they'd go and die and Canada would be great and people would have their freedom and it's going to be rainbows and sunshine and lollipops and everything's going to be great. Well, now we're at 2020 and look what's happened. And for those who choose not to believe what's happening around them, and I know I have like lifelong friends, 20, 30-year friends who still choose to not acknowledge what's happening around them. And it's sad that people are in this state where if it doesn't affect me directly, then I'm not really worried about it. I got my nice little security bubble. I'm good. I got my government check. It's all la-di-da. Everything's good. No one's kicking in my door yet, wanting to stab me for my loaf of bread that's in the freezer. It's gonna get crazy, people. And think about the big picture here. If you are at home and you get $2,000 a month, and that's your only source of income because there are no jobs. There are no jobs anywhere. Unless you want to work for free. Then there's always lots of jobs. The point is, you're stuck on $2,000 a month. First of all, who can live on that? Who in their right mind can live on that? For most people, that's a mortgage payment. That doesn't include groceries. That doesn't include internet, electricity, water, blah, 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 right? And you know what these energy companies are like? I spent more money in March on power than I did in December, which I'm going to be having a conversation with my power company about because I'm calling your BS, people. Why is my bill $300 a month?
Oh, mine's been 300. My power, my water, and my gas combined is about $700 a month.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, and let's keep in mind, $2,000 a month is your new income. This is the new norm.
Well, it's interesting that everybody says that the second wave will be here. I've been talking to a few people, and John, you were one of them, talking about it coming a lot sooner, like you think in June or maybe early July. But they actually, in order to sell the second wave, they need us to get comfortable again, to get back out into the world. And the reality is, I think that they're going to give us the summer. I think that we're going to have this. We'll go to the concerts, we'll go to the park, we'll have our backyard barbecues, and things will get back to a certain type of normality. Not completely, but a certain type of normality. And then come September, October, I think that's when they're going to pull this. Oh no, now we've got COVID 937 and it's deadly, blah, blah. And they'll pull the plug on, and then they'll push us back inside again, except then it will be through a tyrannical type of lockdown. And their $2,000 a month regrettably won't be coming in anymore. And the food in your fridge is probably all you're going to have for at least a month while they get this lockdown done. And if you step out onto the streets, they'll shoot you, because I think that's what their final stage of this is. And if we don't prepare today to take them out, then, because the gun owners need to understand that they're not alone, that they have family to protect. And John F. Kennedy once was known to have said that if you can't have a peaceful revolution, you most certainly will have a bloody one. So, if we have to do this, let's make sure the blood is theirs and not ours.
And I'd like to carry on my story with this $2,000 a month. And let's say, okay, we make it to the end of summer and then the second wave hits and now we're not getting the $2,000 a month. Even with the $2,000 a month now, today, families are starving. Today, there are hungry kids in Canada. Today, there are homeless kids in Canada. Today, people are losing things. People are getting kicked out. Don't think for a second that because the government says the landlord can't kick you out, that it's not happening, because it is happening out there. Now, with your starving children that haven't eaten in 3 or 4 days, what are you willing to do to feed them? That's where the aggression comes in, right? You go on down to your supermarket, you try and steal some food, you get caught, you get busted, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you get away, maybe you take out the security guard, knock them out or whatever, and take what you have to feed your kids. My point is, when your kids and your family are starving and the people you love in your general circle are suffering, you will do whatever you have to do to make sure they're going to be okay. I know this because I'll be doing the same thing myself, as will everyone watching this program tonight. It's human nature, People need to start thinking about this, gardens, water, clothing, shelter.
John, I don't mean to interrupt. But my biggest question is, when are people going to go, you know what? I don't think everything's okay. Like, how much more tyrannical does it need to get before people go, oh, something's not right here? You know what I mean?
Like I was saying, Kathy, everyone feels so safe and secure in their little security bubble. My ex is a prime example of that. We've tried to present this information to her. We've tried to show her videos. We've introduced her to certain people and let her have conversations with people. And some people just refuse to believe. And quite frankly, that's a good thing, because that means there's going to be more food at the grocery store for me to go rob. Because they're not the ones that make it.
I think people, need to be personally affected. Like, I still know friends who are, living on the West Coast, and their job hasn't been affected yet. And, every weekend they're out, primping and, planting their yard, and then sitting up on the deck and sucking back coulis, and, they're just living the life, and I'm sure there are quite a few people out there that, are still doing this. But let me tell you, I had phone calls with my bank today. I've supposedly had to, put my mortgage, on hold for 6 months. And I've got bankers calling all the time, and I got mortgage companies calling all the time. And, I know what's going to happen. So I'm already personally affected, but I started this long before that ever happened. And now I'm looking at my friends going, who's next? It's going to be you and you, because you work here and they're doing this with the food, and it's going to be you over here because you drive truck, And, you know, is that when they're going to wake up? Like, I'm wondering, this is my biggest question right now is, what is it going to take to wake people up? Because this is not normal. None of this is normal. You can't say that it is. And if you say that it is, you're just lying to yourself. You might as well go crawl back underneath the rock you came from, because you're not going to be any good to anybody anyways.
Do you
I'd
people
like to,
or
I'd like to
anybody
interject
watching
for a
this
minute.
show know if there is some form of a ray gun available to wake people up and literally blast the truth into their skulls? If anyone knows that, please get a hold of me ASAP. I've got a bit of cash, even some plans. I'm pretty good in the garage. It's imperative. We got to do this.
I'd like to interject for a moment. One of the things that I've noticed most is that the corporations have been allowed to keep in business, like the Walmart. How about even the potash corporations? The mines are open. Everybody's allowed to work except for a select small business owner. They're allowing the farmers to put in their crops, but guess what? They're even doing that in under duress, let's say, because some of the farmers don't know how they're going to have the money to put their crops in. You know, like it's a really, really sad situation out there, and the government control, the tyranny, the totalitarianism is, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Who'd have ever thought that Canada would become this much of a dictatorship?
Now, and now you know who controls the government. We did a roundtable event on corporatocracy a few months ago. And this is exactly what we talked about back then, was who controls the government. Well, the companies that are open today under this COVID-19 BS are the ones that pay the pollies. And the small business owners that are going bankrupt by having to close their doors or being arrested just to open their doors. I was reading down in, I guess it was Southern California, the businesses had opened. They allowed the small businesses to open, yet nobody came. They went to the beaches and the parks instead because they've been locked up for so long that even now today, if we suddenly said, oh, let's open the entire economy, nobody has any money. They haven't worked in 2 months. So what are they going to buy? That's the number one problem here, is that there is no economy. They ensured there was no economy. And the only people that got anything out of this were the multinational corporations, the big boys who paid the pollies to keep their doors open. And I mean, of all things, how the heck is a McDonald's essential service? That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. There was a movie out a number of years ago that this guy did where he went and ate at McDonald's every day. And about 22 days into this, the doctors told him he had to stop eating there because his liver was going to blow up. And what makes them essential? It's junk food. You get no nutrition from eating at McDonald's. I don't understand this. This is ridiculous. I get, okay, Loblaws and the big Safeways and so on and so forth. Yeah, okay, that's all well and good. But the mom and pop corner stores need to remain open as well. We have wonderful little vegetable shops in our neighborhood here in Toronto that have been shut down, and they force you to buy $3 tomatoes over at Metro or $4 tomatoes at Loblaws. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If you're running a corporatocracy, yeah, let's put what was it that old man Rockefeller said? What did he say? He said, competition is a sin. Well, guess what they're doing now? They're wiping out all the competition for their buddies so that you only get one place to go. Your selection will be Liberals, Progressive Conservatives, or NDP. But that's it, no more. And now you can go shopping at Walmart, here in Toronto, Loblaws, Metro, or Sobeys. Nobody else. John, you want to put your 2 cents on it?
Yeah, I sure do. I've been a big advocate on not going to these big corporation stores for quite a while, especially around Christmas time. When I constantly got on here and said, don't go spend your money at Walmart. Go and find your mom and pop stores. We got to start supporting local. And the fact is, we do still have to. Now the situation's changed a little bit because now mom and pop are out of business. 48% of Edmonton businesses will be closed permanently as a result of this. So now when we get back to work, when we're at the end of our $2,000 a month and that's spent on rent and groceries, now you get back to work. Now it's going to be another month before you see a paycheck. For most, for some even longer. People running businesses and trucking or carpentry, well, they could have anywhere from 30 to 90 days hold back. So it's not going to be pleasant for quite a while. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to be contacting the Hutterite colonies in my area. I'm going to be contacting some farmers to see what they're growing, to see what I can get off them. Perhaps I don't have cash to buy anything, but I do have labor I can offer, right? There are other means of providing for yourself other than going to Safeway. And I know this mindset is completely out of the question with the majority of people in this landmass.
Yeah. We've been
Spoiled rotten.
taught.
Anytime we want something, all we got to do is run down to Safeway and pick it up.
Yeah, but we were taught that way. We were taught that dollars equals security, right? And we weren't taught to grow your own food. We weren't taught to make your shelter. Well, carpenters are taught how to make shelter, but we were always taught you got to go to work so you can pay income tax, so you can eat. Well, I there's something wrong with that whole system, and that can be changed. That can be changed with the Constitution. We need a big collective group think. And we can make this better. We can't make it worse, right? I mean, how much worse can it get?
Well, that's the thing about this, and that's why we're so adamant and passionate about this, is that all of these problems that we're facing today and for the last 10 generations in every one of your families, everything they've faced for the last 150 years can all be changed by writing a constitution and seating it as your government, which we, the people, have the power to do. All we need to do is do it. And that's why we do.
You know what's even great in all of that, John, is it's only going to take one province, right? One province seats de jure, and the rest of Canada goes, what? What'd they just do? Right? And from there, let's just even take that a little bit farther. You think this world is corrupt? What do you think the rest of the world is going to do when they look at what Canada just did? You want to talk about a chance to change the very world we live in, everything that's wrong with it? This right here, right now, starting now with one province is how that happens forever.
And that's what we're teaching is popular legitimacy. We do not have to take it to the international courts. We do not have to take it to the Supreme Court of Canada. We have to take it to the people. The people stand up. The people contribute. It's not rocket science. We just have to get together and stay glued, not get unglued because of this situation. We just have to work at it. And we have 37 million people in Canada. We've got 37 million solutions. Everyone brings one to the table. And that's how we get this done.
And don't forget that sovereigns don't ask permission.
That's right. We don't need anyone's permission to do this, everyone. No one's permission. We don't have to go to court. We don't have to ask the government for permission. We don't need to ask the world for permission. This land belongs to us. We, the people, and the minerals that are under our feet and that surround them. They belong to us.
There's an interesting, I had an interesting conversation with, I guess it was Brent, or no, not Brent, I'm sorry, Catherine, about NAFTA and about the TPP, about the IMF, World Bank, what the BIS, what happens to those things, the United Nations, Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. And we were talking about contracts, and she was wondering, well, has China come over and they've started to buy up a bunch of stuff here in Canada? And what happens is this: when you have a de facto unlawful government that enters into a contract with, for example, a Chinese company, not the Chinese government, but Chinese company, and the Chinese company enters into a contract with the de facto British Columbia government, well, that contract becomes null and void, as would any contracts that were signed by the de facto federal authority with the UN or the IMF or the BIS or NAFTA, or they're all null and void. You can't have a criminal organization signing a contract that you are bound to. It doesn't work that way. When you bring law of the land back onto the land, all of that contracts that they went into, and you can't go to the international courts, because the international courts, they changed the name in 1950. The international courts were called the International Courts of Admiralty, or the International Admiralty Courts. And so they took Admiralty out of there to keep people in the dark about what they really were. And The Hague is an Admiralty jurisdictional court. So why would you ever want to go there? They deal with legal fictions. If we're back on law, and so how do we change the world? When we put law of the land back under our feet, and all of these contracts become null and void, and the rest of the world goes, what? You mean we can do the same thing? All of the 150, 200 years these parasites have worked so diligently to bamboozle us into believing that we were the legal fictions now goes null and void, period. Holy doodles, ladies and gentlemen, we thought we could just change our province, just change the Canada. No, we can change the world. We have that ability. Now, that's a big thing to put across your shoulders, I'll tell you, but it's the absolute truth. Go ahead, Catherine.
It's absolutely mind-blowing, really, when you think about it, because people, I find, get caught up. You know, they get caught up locally. Like, oh, I was just down at the grocery store and they've got tape marking which directions you can walk in the grocery store, and everybody's wearing masks. And then, you know, you have a conversation and someone takes the conversation to the next level. And next thing you know, what? Yeah, this country's just gone to crap. And then they're like, yeah, did you hear about those tunnels and all that crap going on? I mean, the problem's happening globally. You really, really want to change the world, you got to start somewhere. You might as well start here, because it's like a ripple effect in the ocean. And man, oh man, when you do that, they have nothing. Without us, they have nothing. And when everyone stands up and goes, jigs up, we're not supporting your banks, we're not supporting your big corporations, we're not doing any of that anymore. And they all walk away, these people are powerless. They may have a lot of money, which is also going to disappear. They have nothing. They become the fiction. And it's incredible. It's what drives me every day to continue to work in that direction. And that's just how I have to operate. If more people just took that approach, that, yeah, I may just be one person, but you know what? I got a tribe of other people who are, you know, like-minded, working in the same direction, doing, you know, what they need to do. And we will get it done. We will. It's how fast depends on the rest of you. You want this done like tomorrow? Then I suggest you get involved today. Last week, a month
Actually,
ago.
if you want it done tomorrow, you better bring a gun, because getting it done fast, it's not going to get done right. So bring your gun and get shooting, because that's the only way, unless we join together with pens and do it right. Take it to our people so that they too can get involved.
Well, I mean, Brenda, you're exactly right. And I mean, it's just so simple. We're not asking you to take on the world or run out and drag people that you don't know off the street and tell them, oh my God, we don't have a constitution. Did you know that? I mean, it's simple. Talk to two people you know and tell them to pass it on. Is it that difficult? Two people. And you're good. If everybody did that, wow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If everybody only did that. And all we want you to do is either A, come and listen to us for an hour, or B, go to themythiscanada.com or CA and start reading the documents yourself to see what's happened. Start learning, start educating yourself. We can't do it for you. We're not here to hold your hands. We're here to teach people, but people need to take initiative themselves, want to learn, want to make a difference, and want to give a shit about their neighbors' kids instead of themselves and them $2,000 checks they're getting. Let's not forget what the people of Michigan, was it, that just did this last week? 100,000 people strong, armed, went into their government building and claimed control. This is our house, they said. And they are absolutely right. The army didn't attack them. The police didn't attack them. Why? Because we, the people, spoke. And good on them. Quite happy with the results of that. And I only wish that people had the balls to do that here. I find that the 80% of people that are asleep here are very complacent, very happy with where they're at. It's a shame, really, but, you know, like we said, when people start getting affected directly and the stomachs aren't getting filled up every day and the light switch don't work and fridge is empty and, you know, the water doesn't work anymore, you can't have showers, and, well, maybe that won't be enough either, because they got a camp right down the road. It's government funded. I can go stay there.
Well, and you're John, you're right. But people are, and as this gets worse and worse, and these lockdowns are slowly opening back up again. People they have memories, and they will remember. You know, this is not proper. And I'm hoping as they open this up, because there's no reason why we should have to wait for them to open it up. We should be out there ourselves. I don't do lockdown. I go out every day. I go to my local coffee shop. I have my coffee. Sometimes I actually sit there outside, because they won't let you sit inside, because they don't want to get in trouble. But I sit outside the coffee shop. And I had people come by and they stare at me because I'm sitting outside. It's a beautiful sunny day. Why wouldn't one sit outside? And it's across the street from the Loblaws store. And I look across the street and I go, my God, these people are social distancing outside, where it absolutely has zero effect. And they're wearing masks outside. And so I asked the guy at the coffee shop today, I go in there, I said, you're still wearing your mask? He goes, well, I have to. I said, well, thank you. I'm glad that you're wearing your mask and you're protecting me from your COVID-19 that you have. And he goes, what? I don't have COVID-19. I said, why are you wearing a mask? You'd only wear a mask if you have COVID-19 so you don't spread it around. Well, I said, well, if you don't have COVID-19, you can catch it by wearing a mask. You know that, right? And he goes, what? I said, haven't you done any research at all? And he goes, well, no, I didn't know any of that. I did that to my post office guy a few days ago. And then I came back the next day, and he did the research, and he wasn't wearing a mask. Because it's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. I know that all the people on this stream that we're putting out tonight, they all know this already. But, you know, go talk to people wearing a mask. Go tell them, why are you wearing a mask? You've COVID-19, so you're protecting me from this. Doctors and nurses will tell you the only reason they wear a mask is not to protect them from you. It's to protect you from them, because they're carrying bacteria and so forth and viruses in the hospital where your immune system is impaired. So they wear masks to protect you from them. And that's the only reason you wear a mask. And this social distancing, if you go into a building with a ceiling higher than 10 feet, social distancing doesn't work. It has no effect. In other words, you could stand next to a guy with a ceiling high as 10 or 12 feet who has COVID-19 and you won't catch it. And outside, it doesn't work at all. This is all about what? One word. What is this about? Ladies and gentlemen, all four of us, all at once. The one word. What is it? Control. Control. It's all it's about.
It's a shame.
That's sad.
Humanity has failed.
No, it hasn't. Humanity's doing great. Humanity is doing great.
This is the
Just the
same
people are.
tactics. This is the same tactics the Canadian government used in what year was it to get the railways built? What year was it they caused the genocide for our First Nations? It's the same tactics, and we're still drinking it. We're still eating it.
Well, tried and true.
Brenda, it's funny. I had a conversation with Doug today about this, and I was doing some research on historical newspapers. And I, at one point, kind of got lost in searching through the papers. And I'm reading all these headlines, and I'm going, yeah, that sounds like today. And oh my God. And then I started looking at each page as I was going by, and the same damn shit happened back in the 40s as you are seeing exactly today. It's right there in black and white. Historical newspapers. Go look it up. You can go on a free site. You can. I mean, Iran and Greece and Ukraine, and they were talking about after the war and how, you know, there's food rations and everyone's having to look at, be like, where they're going to get their clothes. And I'm just like, is this 2020 or what? You know, and I'm reading newspapers from the 1940s. This has been going on for a long time.
And I actually read these old newspapers from 1918 during the Spanish flu, and they were talking about how they moved all the patients in the hospital were brought outside during the day into the sunshine and the fresh air, and how they had church services were held outside rather than inside. When they did operations in the hospital, they moved the patients up to the roof, and they held the operation on the roof outside, so that they could get fresh air and breeze, et cetera, and sunshine. And if you look at the BS that's been going on with the government and why they want you to lock, you got to lock yourself away. And you got these other doctors who've come out and they said, well, how do you gain your immune system? How do you build your immune system? By interaction with other people. It's the only way you're going to build your immune system. But hey, if they can make your immune system go down in value, the vaccine that they're going to force into you, what that's going to do to your immune system, will that take it down to the final stage where you'll get your vaccine and you walk around the corner and there'll be a big dumpster there for your dead body to fall into?
Or just locking you away, even, Doug, puts your immune system in a weakened system so that when you do go back out, that's how the second wave starts, because everyone's just going to catch every type of pathogen now, and they're all going to, they're all calling everything else COVID-1984, so they might as well just, everything coming is also going to be COVID-1984, so, I mean,
Well, Maggie Dick has asked a question of me here, if you don't mind, and I know John will definitely want to add into this. Mm-hmm. And she says, can you talk about our rights as far as this gun ban is concerned, please? I was hoping Cody Holler would come on this evening because I know he's been working on filing a motion in their administrative offices that are more commonly known as courts for lack of jurisdiction. Our rights, okay, not the all caps fiction that you see on your driver's license, your birth certificate, your health card, et cetera, but our rights, the men and women who have a firm foot on the ground here in Canada have unalienable rights, and that unto itself is an unalienable right. The right to protect your life and your family's life from the intrusion of a tyrannical government or a home invader or. When Australia confiscated their guns and they did the buyback, and basically what Trudeau has done here is he's done this whole thing that Australia did. And the Australians, oh my God, it just saddened me to watch them turn in their guns. Their murder rates tripled. Their home invasion rate went up 1,500%. The only people that abide by the law are law-abiding people. Criminals love gun control. There was a sign outside the theater in Colorado where that guy walked in and emptied his AR-15 and changed his clips and emptied it again and emptied it again. And that sign said, gun-free zone. So when he walked into that theater, he knew that nobody was going to return fire. It was a target-rich environment. Here in Canada, gosh almighty, the gun guys, the big Duke reached out to the head guy, Billy something or other, and suggested that they might want to talk to us. And he went, oh, there's Mr. Cody Holler. A pleasure to see you. We're talking about this gun stuff. And what basically they did is they hired an attorney because they deemed themselves to be incompetent, as the courts will now deem them to be incompetent, to go fight for their rights to own guns here in Canada, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so that was the end of that. They said, well, we want nothing to do with you. We've hired an attorney because we're incompetent, we're children, and we need them to make sure that we get our guns confiscated, because that's what will happen to them. As far as your rights go, Maggie, you have unalienable rights, period. If they come to your door, I have a lot of friends down in the States, patriots who say, out of my cold, dead hands will they retrieve my weapons. They will walk through a wall of bullets in order to get my weapons. And I believe them. Oh my God, do I believe them. Here in Canada, not so sure. John, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of very angry people in Canada right now, primarily gun owners and hunters, because of the recent gun grab. I'm on a page on Facebook, Canadian Gun Nuts, I believe it's called, and everyone's talking about it. And I said, twice now I've posted it in there about jurisdiction. Have any of you considered the jurisdiction that what Justin Trudeau said applies to? He said there is a ban in Canada on these 1,500 weapons. Okay, now there's been more added to it, apparently, like the average 12 gauge with a 20 millimeter diameter or greater bore on it. So all you turkey hunters, chicken hunters, all that stuff is going to be obsolete because your gun is now on the ban list. Now, Trudeau said that it was a gun ban in Canada. That's a very important part. You need to really listen to what this moron is saying so that you can decipher it, okay? So let's look at the Interpretations Act and the description of Canada. This is available for anyone to go see, but it says this: Canada, for greater certainty, includes the internal waters of Canada and the territorial sea of Canada. Now, can anyone on here say where you heard the word land in that particular clause in the Interpretation Act. Because from what I just read from an act that they created, Canada is at sea, which is followed by Admiralty law, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it goes on and on and on. And while you're at it, while you're looking up the Interpretations Act, actually just send me an email. I'll be more than happy to email it to you. Look up the Citizenship Act. You see what a Canadian person or citizen is.
Okay, John, Duke. Hi, Duke. How are you tonight? Could you mute your mic for a sec? Can you mute your mic for a sec? Because we're...
Yeah, hang on a second.
Okay,
I'm trying
cool.
to find it.
I wanted to bring Cody into the conversation. He's been here for a little bit. We'll bring you in right after Cody has had his 10 cents worth, and we'll give you your 10 cents. So, Cody, if you don't mind taking over the microphone and giving us an update on what you've been doing since our last restream. I'm sorry, StreamYard.
Sure, yeah. You'll have to excuse me. I got some cartoons on in the background for the baby here. He's a little fussy, and it seems to mellow him out. So, yeah, no, we were looking at the idea of a motion, but thinking about that, Doug, to file a motion into a court, there has to be a court action in progress, right? To even have a case file number or anything like that, you have to have a claim. So that'd be a tough way to go, right? You can't really just do up a motion with an affidavit and slam that into the courts to go, here, I'm challenging your jurisdiction, right? So I had a few discussions with people that are a little bit more knowledgeable, and they've made some really good points. They suggested perhaps a notice process where you could notice the federal government, the Privy Council, and make it so that it states right on there, notice to agent is notice to principal is notice to agent, so it accompanies all of the government. And you could actually put them on notice stating that they don't have jurisdiction with the factual evidence, and do what is called a default judgment process. Just to briefly explain what that is, it's basically it's a common law process where you would put somebody on notice for something. And once you file notice to them, you give them 10 business days to rebut the claims. If they don't rebut the claims, then they are actually in dishonor. They've defaulted on a contract, basically, or a claim, or to answer your notice, right? So they were saying that, you file the notice, you give them the 10 days, and if they don't adequately rebut your notice, then you send another document, which would be a notice of default and an opportunity to cure, giving them another 10 days to remedy the fact that they didn't reply to your notice, and send you, an argument to rebut what you've sent to them. And another 10 days after that, if they haven't given you a response, then you could file a notice of default. Notice of default judgment. That basically you're claiming a default judgment for their lack of response, and that their acquiescence is their tacit agreement to what. Start making nooses. See, but here's the thing. With any of this stuff, in the end, we can say we're not in their jurisdiction. We're on the land. But do you think that they're going to listen to that? They have guns. They have police. I'd like to think that doing some peaceful process like this would give us remedy, and maybe it could if we had enough people doing it all together at once and actually understanding what they were doing, right?
Well, and Cody, that was the whole idea here. It wasn't to win; it was to lock in their system.
Right.
And look, if it was a good thought, and it was a good exercise in thought processing. But now, hey, we're moving on. We'll move on to something else. I know that you were getting. Did you do you did a live stream earlier this week as well, if I recall correctly?
Sorry, you just cut out there. What did you say?
I said, didn't you do a live stream earlier this week as well? Weren't you out and about? Or was that somebody else? Gosh, oh man, there's so many people out doing this now. Anyway, I know.
missed
Duke,
it all again.
Okay, Duke.
Sorry,
That's okay. Duke, you wanted to say something? Why don't we bring Duke in for his 10 cents worth? Thank you, Cody.
Yeah.
Well, sorry guys, I've been having problems hearing you. I hope the audience isn't having the same problem I'm having, because Ed, the audio is really choppy. I'm sorry, Cody, I had a hard time understanding what you were saying or hearing all of what you were saying. Yeah, basically you told the people about our conversation last night where we figured out that putting the onus of proof of jurisdiction on them is a reactionary step, not a first step in the process. And that's kind of sad to hear, because it means somebody with guts has to wait until they get charged, and then they can file the proof of jurisdiction. It's another way the criminals have designed the system to tilt the table in favor of them spinning the roulette wheel, right? We have to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the criminals in Ottawa, in Edmonton, in Toronto at Queen's Park, they're no different than the people at your local casino. The key to the casino is that there's only one player who goes back to the casino every single day: the house. That's the only player. I don't care how many times your buddy may tell you he was at the casino. He wasn't there 24/7 like the house is. And the house always wins. They make the rules and the house always wins. It's why the casino is always there. The people in the casino can go broke, but the casino is always there. The government is always going to be there because they're not a real government. We know that. I'm not going to sit here and lecture, guys. I just wanted to take a few minutes from the bottom of my heart, and Doug and I are going to talk about this tomorrow night. And I hope that John and Brenda and Catherine, I hope that you guys come and watch my show tomorrow night, because Doug's going to join me and we're going to say goodbye to Politically Speaking. I just want to say to the three of you, in February and March of 2018, I introduced the internet, outside of the few people that watched it on Liquid Luncheon when Doug first appeared in November, to the social media world of Facebook and YouTube. I introduced The Myth is Canada. And I knew then that this wasn't something that I could do or Doug could do. This was something that had to be done everyone, by a group of people. It's not a one-man show. And I just want to tell them that, having been the guy at the top of the hill, packing that little snowball together and hoping that it made it all the way down the hill and grew into something bigger than what I created. Thank you for being the people on the hill. You've stepped up. You've taken that little snow. Doug gave me some flakes of snow. I scooped it together, and together he and I made a little snowball. And we pushed it down the hill. And in 2 years, people like you have stood up, come without even realizing that you were all coming together for the same reason. You've come together, turning that snowball into an avalanche. Thank you. Thank you. Three of you But all those hidden voices that are out there behind you, thank you. You've proven to me last 2 years and all the way back to when I was a kid in Niagara Lake, figuring out that something. You've proven to me that 3 words really do have all the power and we, the people. Thank you so much. I'm done. Please see you tomorrow
Thanks,
night.
Duke. Always a pleasure. Duke Willis, I like he says, I'll be doing his show tomorrow night, Politically Speaking. It's the last one he's going to be doing. It was we've had a great year and a half together. It's been a lot of fun. We did the Clarity Act, the Indian Act. We debunked a whole bunch of stuff, from the Magna Carta 1215 all the way through to that silliness of how people didn't have to pay their property taxes. Oh my God. That was fun. We did have a blast though, Duke. I must admit, the stuff that we've talked about, the stuff that we've exposed, the people that you introduced me to, the people that got introduced to the Myth is Canada. It's amazing. If it wasn't for Duke Willis.
It's been a great ride, Doug. Your mic is cutting out, or maybe it's my system. I'm not sure. I'm gonna dip out of here. I don't want to steal your limelight and your spotlight at all. You 3, along with Neil Maguda, who even though he wants to take a back seat, guess what? He's still out there pulling on an oar. He may not be in the same boat you were in, but he's pulling on an oar and he's part of the flotilla. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of others out there that I'm sorry, I don't know all their names and I couldn't sit here for hours naming them all, even if I wanted to. You 3 are just the faces we can look at and smile at and have smile back at us. You 3 are the ones I wanted to thank personally because, as I say, you're taking what Doug and I had as a dream and you're turning it into a reality. And I can't thank you enough. Excuse me.
Thank you, Duke, for helping us.
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for helping us out too. You've always been there for us when we needed, that extra push.
I still will be. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be watching I'm going to be part of your Zoom call Monday.
Oh, great. We're looking.
You don't think I'm going to start this and then walk away and leave it? Hell no. I've been waiting for this to happen since I started building the Bikers' Rights Organization back in the early 80s. And I was thinking, yeah, we've got people who are awake. No, I've now got people who are not only awake, they're marching.
Yeah, we are. And we're
I can hear the beat of your drum.
Bringing more with us.
Yeah. And I'm going to be there Monday. I'm out of here. Ed, take me out of here, buddy. I'm done. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you.
So tomorrow night, 9:00 Eastern, Duke Willis's last Politically Speaking. You can catch him on his YouTube channel at Duke Willis, and you can catch him on his Facebook page, Duke Willis. It's if it hadn't. And by the way, if it hadn't been for Duke, I would have not met John. I would have not met Catherine. I would have not met Brenda. I wouldn't have met Rudy Bruce. All the Nikki Hurley. Cody Holler, all of this came through Duke Willis. And I have to thank him for that. He's been has he been a supporter of the Myth is Canada.
Let's talk about Duke for a minute and what he's accomplished in, the last couple of years with his shows at 4 nights a week.
John, I hate to interrupt, but I have to go, guys. I'm sorry, but
Good night, Catherine. Have fun.
I have a round to make.
Good night. Thank you for coming. Bye for now.
Good night, Catherine.
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
So yeah, let's talk about Duke and what he's done for his country or his landmass known as Canada since 2018, where he's done 3 to 4 shows a week. Each show 2 to 3 hours long. I've never met a man more passionate that cares about his neighbors and all fellow Canadians as much as that man. Never have I seen him go on to his show without any factual backed evidence of everything that he talks about. He will not get on and tell you BS. Granted, he's lost it a few times on there, as we all have. I have too once, and me and him did it together once. It was kind of fun. But we reach a frustration point where when, like Kathy said, what is it going to take? You know? How long do we have to keep doing this? Would we be better off not doing these shows and letting everyone fend for themselves? Well, I think not. I think that the message needs to continue. But I would suggest that everyone who's watching tonight and everyone who's watching this video in the future, look up Duke Willis, because his numbers should be off the freaking chart. But they're not. But there are guys out there that are defeating you a complete line of BS that have great numbers. Where's the truth in that? You know, and this gets back to my humanity has failed theory, which means everyone is out for themselves. Well, maybe not everyone, but a good chunk of people. Greed has not only taken over our politicians and world leaders, it's also stemmed down to many people in our communities, where no one goes and helps their neighbor anymore. When's the last time you went to your neighbors for a cup of milk? Or help your elderly neighbor clean up their leaves on their lawn? Because that's the right thing to do. People have swayed so far away from the right thing to do. And quite frankly, I have open arms for this world change that's coming, because we've reached a point where we don't give a shit about anyone but ourselves and people in our general circle. I've met some wonderful people by doing this movement and being on the front lines on these shows, like Doug, like Brenda, like Kathy, Neil, Duke, Rudy. You know, there's some really good people still left in this country that all have the same mindset. How many of you's got a call from CRA saying you owe taxes? The scam. How many elderly people fell for it? Everywhere you turn, someone is trying to scam you these days. This is what we've turned into. This is what needs to stop. There's price gouging. It never ends. So when you get a guy like Duke Willis who gets up and stands up in front of people and tells it like it is, it's not a cup of tea for everyone, that's for sure. He will attract his audience, like I will attract my audience, like Doug will attract his, right? But at what point do people get back to being human and giving a shit about each other and caring when someone's in need? You know, like that homeless guy you drove by pushing that shopping cart. How did he get there? Is he a drug addict? Did he lose everything? Maybe he lost his job as a result of child maintenance. Couldn't pay his ridiculous child payments, and they took his driver's license, lost his job, lost his house, blah, blah, blah. It was just a downward spiral. Now he's on the street. So you see, when you see that shopping cart guy, just remember there's a lot of reasons he could be there. Some could be his own choices, and some could be that are not. Some could be forced choices. And this is what we need to start. We need to start having some compassion for people. I've got a 96-year-old lady next door to me, old Ukrainian girl, and any chance I get, I am over there helping her. I don't want a dime. She's always so insistent on paying me, and I always tell her, no, I'm not here for your money. I don't want, you want to give money? Here, give it to my kid. Go buy him some ice cream or a toy or whatever, right? But that's how she was brought up. She was brought up a farm girl. And when you did something and you worked, you're entitled to get a form of payment, right? Because that's how it's inbred into her. Let's look at work ethic. How many people now and their kids and I know that every one of you can agree with me. All their kids want to do, where's my hand, is this on the phone, on the tablet. They don't want to pick up a shovel. They don't want to pick up a chainsaw and go to the woods and get a load of wood to burn in your wood stove to keep you warm for the winter. Everybody wants this convenience. Nobody wants to work anymore. Obesity is a problem. I'm a prime example of that. You know, so, and it's because of the options that we have these days, like the McDonald's and the junk food. And believe you me, I do try to eat well, right? But the point is, it all comes down to choice. It's all a psychological.
Well, not exactly, John. Not exactly. Think about this.
Mm,
I was a single parent, same as you are, and I had a choice. I could either stay at home and try to cook a meal, or I could go to work and earn money so that we could cook a meal and not have enough time to cook it. So I always had two choices. One was either earn the money, or the other one was do the labor. I didn't have time for both because I was working three jobs supporting my family as a single mom. So, no, I needed McDonald's. I needed those fast food places. I needed that in order so that these kids could actually, live for another day without starving to death. So, even then, you think it's your choice, but why was I put into the position of earning a living instead of creating the food, instead of growing the food, instead of, right? That's where our society is, and that's what we've been taught. We've been taught that right from day one.
well, here's a prime example of a forced government choice. You had the choice to either make some money and go to the McDonald's, or you had a choice to not go to work and stay at home and cook all the stuff, which means you'd be broke.
Well, which means that you have to have money in order to cook the stuff because you were you are unable to stay on your small piece of property and raise your chickens and raise your pigs and because of the community standards.
Does anybody remember back in the 70s when we were going to school and robotics was just starting to come out? Electronics, transistor radios were like the discussion they had back then is they were worried that too many people would be unemployed because of robots and technology and all that other things. They said, well, we'll just have to redistribute the wealth or change the hours, lower the working hours. And standard of living is going to go through the roof. So here we are 40 years later. Taxes are through the roof. Standard of living has come down big time. So we've been played, people.
We have been played.
Yeah. And the days of, having this forced choice on us we don't need to do this stuff. There are alternatives like the weekends, preparing meals for the week, et cetera, et cetera. This is poison that we're eating.
Well, guys, we seem to have gotten a little bit off topic here. What I'd like to do is pull us back on topic a little bit, John. We started this call tonight with John, Catherine, and Brenda, and we were talking about the modules and the Zoom calls. And we're going to end this call this evening talking about the modules and the Zoom calls. So I'm going to let John have the first say, and then we'll move to Catherine, and then I'll say goodnight. So go ahead, John.
Okay, everyone, please attend. Brenda is hosting the next one. Please come check it out. If she gets an overwhelming number of people that want to show up, Brenda can let me know. I can host one as well. It's imperative that we teach you guys this information, or at least show you. And you guys will have the choice to believe it or not. It's factual. It's in front of you. It's entirely up to you what you decide to do with it. All we want you to do is have a look at it. It takes an hour. since we're at home for several hours each day, for those of you that aren't leaving your home, I'm sure that an hour could be not watched on the TV or the computer, and you could attend something like this that's actually going to help make a difference for yours, your kids, and your grandkids' future. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for having me on your show, Doug. And I guess we'll see you guys on the next one.
And by the way, John, it's not my show, it's yours.
Oh, it's mine.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming on my show tonight, Doug.
Thank you for having me, John. Brenda, how would you like to let everybody know, once again, time, date, what it is you're going to be doing on Monday?
Well, Monday night, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's a Zoom call. We're going over Module 1, which is the history of Canada. We will also broach what's in the next modules and how we plan to use this to get started. The series is called Getting Started, and I was having a thought within myself whether I should say getting started or it starts with me, because it can't just be me. If we don't teach everybody, if we don't have everybody involved, this is going to go nowhere. So please get involved. Please take it upon yourself to say, yeah, it starts with me. And it does. And I'm hoping to see you Monday night, 7 o'clock. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Brenda. Once again, Brenda Stetner, Saskatchewan. We'll be holding the Zoom calls Monday night, 7 o'clock. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the great support you've been showing to the Myth is Canada and to Brenda, John, Catherine, Duke Willis here on Facebook and on YouTube. Really appreciate your stuff. And for this evening, that's it. I'm going to say goodnight to all and have a great weekend, and tune in tomorrow night to Duke Willis's last Politically Speaking, and you get to see me again. Woohoo! And once again, Mr. Ed Jamnisek, thank you very much for hosting this or moderating this for us. That is so appreciative. Taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this for us.
I'm still playing around with StreamYard, so I'm going to try to do a screen share with audio. If you guys want to just hang on for a minute and just tell me if you guys can hear this and what the sound is like, or if I got to turn the sound up or down. Still a learning experience. I don't do this full time. If you don't mind, Doug.
Absolutely. Rock and roll, brother.
And hey, we might actually learn something. Okay, here it comes. Let's see what happens here.
The wood spider is the most accomplished of all web-building species. Recently, scientists gave these tiny creatures a variety of psychoactive drugs to observe their effects on web building. When given a minute dose of LSD, the spider's web took on an unfamiliar, minimalist structure. When given caffeine, the web structure was not affected, but the spider's behavior was. Given THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, the spider didn't build a web. It built a hammock, where it lay all day and watched the caffeine spider go. When given alcohol, the spider built a web, found a mate, and raised over 100 young. But the mate got a restraining order, and now the spider can't go within 100 centimeters of the web. The crack cocaine spider figured building webs was for suckers, waited till the caffeine spider was exhausted, then came up behind it and popped a cap in its ass. Nice web, Mr. Crack Spider. When winter came, the marijuana spider had no place to live. It ended up in the crack web as the crack spider's bitch. For more information on the crack spider's bitch, contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa.
That is great. Oh my God.
Could you hear that, or?
Oh yeah, here. I thought it was hilarious. I hope the audience heard all of that. That was great.
You know, it's weird. I couldn't hear anything on my computer, on my system. It was silence. That's weird
No.
how it doesn't.
No, I couldn't stop. I had to mute. I forgot to mute my mic. Didn't you hear me laughing? I just about fell off my chair.
Right. Well, at least I know that feature works. Anyways, people, thanks for coming out tonight. Share this video if you can. We've got a lot of work to do, but if some of you are sitting on the fence thinking, I don't know if I should or shouldn't, you know what? Dig into the information. Go to the mythoscanada.ca or the mythoscanada.com. Dig into the material, verify it for yourselves. You don't have to take our word for it, but all this is on the up and up. You guys know in your hearts we're in big trouble. You guys got to open your eyes. Actually, most of the people that are here actually know what's going on. People are looking for answers. We're going to get this done. How long it takes, we don't know. But there's a lot of people getting involved. Every day there's more and more people joining. You know, we've been lied to all our lives. And now the truth is coming out. A lot of people don't want to believe it. Like, you can put it right. Intelligent people, you put it right in front of them on a plate. Here are the facts. And no, they call me a lawyer. But
Well,
it's factual.
The reality and the problem with that, my friend, is cognitive dissonance, and that's because in the indoctrination of the public educational systems that we have here in Canada, I went on to what they call the Canadian Encyclopedia because I'm getting ready to finish up the brand new PowerPoint that I'm doing as an add-on to the tutorial videos that I did last year. And so I go onto this Canadian Encyclopedia, and it's a huge site, and it talks about how Canada Confederated, how we have a constitution, and it's just unreal, the lies that are perpetrated, and it's put out by the Canadian government, of course, to support themselves within this. But the kids go on there because it's the Canadian Encyclopedia and it's about Canadian history, and the kids go on there and they start reading this stuff. So it starts at a very young age, Ed. So it doesn't surprise me that you run into people, and I run into them like you do all the time, who have that same problem. They can't seem to wrap their head around that. And then the big question I hear is, or the big answer I hear is, the government wouldn't do that to us. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Well, guess what? They're doing it to us. They've been doing it to us for centuries, right?
Yeah. Bend over and spread your cheeks.
It's so much easier to believe a lie than it is to believe the truth, though, isn't it?
Well, especially when the lie is something that you make money from. You look at the attorneys, you look at the what we call the justice system here in Canada. It's all based on money, and when they butter their bread and feed their children off of the money in your wallet, because for whatever reason they're too lazy to go out and get a job themselves, what can you do to change their mind? Not much, other than seated as your government and those that want to be the bad guys and stand on the other side. Well, what was his name? The guy in France back in the 1800s, Lapierre. I can't remember his name, but he brought out the guillotine. And those that wanted to stand on the other side, off with their heads. And it might come down to that, Ed. It might come down to that here. I sure hope it doesn't. There doesn't need to be any bloodshed. The transition should be peaceful.
And with the enacting clauses that hopefully will be written into the individual constitutions for every province, it should be peaceful.
But we're looking for.
But expect a lot of pushback.
By the way, an enacting clause only comes from a seated government. You wouldn't put one in a constitution. You only an act of parliament puts an enacting clause in to their constitution. Oh, wait a minute. Don't we have that over in, oh yeah, of course, the Canada Act has an enacting clause in it from the UK government.
Sorry, I stand corrected. A transitional clauses.
Absolutely, we will absolutely. But that comes in the teaching that we will be teaching in the modules, and Catherine and Brenda and John have addressed that in the modules. I don't know whether it's 6, 7, or 8, but it's there. What goes into the Constitution? How do you write a clause? And they talk about jurisdictions of law. They talk about the different structures of government. What is a constitutional monarchy? What is a communist government? What is a fascist government? What is a democratic or democracy? What is a direct democracy? What is a democratic republic, et cetera, et cetera. And they define that. It's very interesting stuff.
Anyways, Doug, thanks for tonight. Any final comments? I'm going to sign off.
No, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody again. Thank you very much. That spider thing was absolutely hilarious. Love it. Please send me the link. I want that. I got to send that to a few people. Make them pee their pants.
Well, we got to make one like that about the government of Canada.
Yeah, we could. But for right now, let's focus on what we've got in front of us.
Something along the lines of parasites or
Cockroaches.
how about, I'm thinking maybe not the honeybee, but what's the bee that raids the honeybees? It's the bumblebee.
No, but they're some pretty animals. You ever see a bumblebee up close? They're pretty. You just don't want to get too close because they sting the hell out of you.
Yeah, but bumblebees don't make honey. They just steal it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kind of like
they're
what the government's doing to us.
So they're parasites.
Yeah, we do all the work.
Well, I think the government's more like bed bugs. Oh yeah, I mean you can't get rid of the fucking things. Once you have them, they're there forever. You know, holy crap.
Actually, you can, but they've banned those chemicals. And
Yeah.
Steam usually does a pretty good job on them.
Yeah.
What is a banana republic? You want to take this one?
Well, it's where Chiquita grows their bananas, of course. I'm kidding. Yeah, Banana Republic is a third world country that usually has a despot government that go travel in the third world and you'll see exactly what a Banana Republic is. You got roads that aren't completed, and those that are have huge holes in them, and it's just not a good place to be. It's the third world, ladies and gentlemen. That's what a Banana Republic is. I know. Oh gosh. Okay. Quickly. Davos, a number of years ago, the last person that spoke was a guy called President Putin. I think it was 2010, 2011. Davos, they meet every year. It's called the Davos Crowd. It's the WEP, or the World Economic something or other. Anyways, he was the final keynote speaker at the last day of Davos, and he did this beautiful speech that went on for about 25 minutes. And the last thing he said in that speech was, the United States is a banana republic. The only problem is they haven't realized it yet. And if you go down into the United States and you drive into the big cities and so forth, the infrastructure down there is in absolute horrific conditions. The side streets are in horrific conditions. The whole cities are in decay. Go down to Detroit. You want to see Banana Republic? Detroit is a great example of a Banana Republic and what's happened there. There's places in Chicago that I would suggest that if you own an armored vehicle, take a drive through, and you'll see Banana Republic. I was in Panama a number of years ago, Panama City, and I walked down the wrong street, and a police officer chased me. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done wrong? He says, yeah, you can't go any further. You'll get killed because this is not a good area. I said, what do you mean it's not a good area? He says, it's run by gangs. And anybody who walks down there. I said, well, can't you escort me? And he goes, no. He said, I'll escort you this way. We'll go back the way you came. And so I did. So, I mean, all these are examples of Banana Republic. So good luck there, fellas. Good night, everybody.
Good night, folks. Thanks for coming, and share this video out. Get on Memphis, Canada. Do your own research. Dig in yourselves. And just look at things honestly. Look at both sides. Keep an open mind. And truth will set you free. Good night.